Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video, I want to have a look at Fantom, but before I do, I first want to thank today's sponsor, FairDesk. Now, FairDesk is an exchange, and if you're interested, you can click the link in the description for a deposit bonus and my copy trade. I make a trade on all the alts I review, so if you don't want to miss that, go check it out. Now, getting straight into Fantom, we can see that this is the full graph for Fantom, and we have over 4 years, which is really important, because when you're reviewing an alt, especially in macro terms, you want to have more than few years, or 4 years, or at least 4 years, so that you can sort of work out how it's performed over a general 4-year cycle. And for us with Fantom, we have that luckily, and that will really play into how we analyze the alt, because I will be comparing it to sort of where we were this time in 2019, which is the equivalent year of 2023. It's the year before the halving for Bitcoin. And then I also want to look at how it performed after that and where it went, and sort of talk about possibilities while providing as much context and information as possible. I do want to start off straight away and say I don't think we'll really return to this red level here. I don't think we'll dip below 4 cents, and if we do, it will be wicks. We won't spend long below there. But if we do, goddamn, buy some up. Not financial advice, but you know, if you believe Fantom will return the next bull run below 4 cents is going to be a steal, I think. And the reason I don't think it will return to this level is because Fantom did extremely well during the last bull run. I mean, it went up. If you bought it its low and sold it its high, I'm pretty sure you made over 1000x. I mean, down here it was worth basically 1/10 of a cent, 1/5 of a cent, and it went up to over $3.70, $3.60 range. Nobody on the planet did, but if someone timed that perfectly, you'd be basically a millionaire from, like, 1,000 quid, 100 quid. It'd be stupid money. And I don't think it's possible to have an asset do this twice. I just don't. I think you had to get in early, and that's where you made your money. Now, I'm not saying there's no room to take profit in Fantom, and quite the contrary. I think there's a lot of profit that you can make with Fantom, especially if you're buying at good price ranges. But I don't think we're ever going to see returns like this on this asset ever again. Just straight up, full stop. I think those sort of returns, if you're hoping for those, or if you're coming here for a video where I'm going to say, yeah, this is how you make 1000x, you're in the wrong place, personally. I don't think that's feasible. However, I do want to say, I do think it's very possible that you can still make a lot of money with Fantom. I mean, it's one of those coins that did very well, but it doesn't mean it can't do poorly. If it does wick down to this sort of 6 cent level, which I do think is very possible, by the way. The other week we were only at 18 cents. Not even the other week, a few days ago we were at 18 cents. That is a 66% drop from here, but we've seen Fantom do them quite regularly. Now we are coming into crunch time again, so this is sort of a pivotal stage for the crypto space, and we can see that a lot of altcoins, basically the whole space, has pumped the last few days. And I mean, Fantom's up to 22 cent now, 23 cents. So, a big drop like that does seem more unrealistic. But I think this is the exact sort of play that draws in a lot of liquidity, removes all short sellers, and then we have a big short. We can see if we zoom in here on this short price action, we'll have a quick look at how Fantom is currently playing out. We can see that we've just been rejected from this bull market support band today. We wicked up this morning and we were rejected, and now we're a little bit below. I think this is ultimately the start of the end. And I know that sounds very pessimistic and sort of over the top, like melodramatic, but I think we've been rejected from this top, and I think we're due to just collapse back down. And this isn't just for Fantom, I think it's the general crypto space. Bitcoin's tested 30k a few times now, and it still hasn't really broken above it significantly. Every time it's got there, it's been rejected and dropped back down a couple of K, whether it's to 27 or 28k. I ultimately think these are liquidity grabs. These are to get people bullish, it liquidates short positions, and then we have a big crash, like we see most pre-halving years. In fact, all pre-halving years, where we have a big crash after a decently sized pump, and it just ruins everybody. It's like one last fuck you from Bitcoin to everybody, basically. I think we could see a sort of similar thing play out, and of course these effects are amplified in the altcoin market. So where we've had Fantom put in like a 30% move here, I want to say, yeah, 30%, we could easily see it drop back down. There is two things I want to compare this to. First of all, this is this line here where we've basically gone parallel. Also, sorry, I should say this is a head and shoulders pattern. We talked about it on our last video. This ultimately means, first of all, that when you draw a head and shoulders, it usually means there's going to be like a drop back down. You know, if this is the arm up to your shoulder, you're going to see another arm going down up to this shoulder. So we do often expect negative price action once this has played out, and it has played out. So that's sort of one bearish indicator first. The second is we've sort of stayed parallel. If we follow this line down, we put in a move like this basically earlier this year, where we went up 23%, and then straight afterwards we went down 30%, you know? I could see something like this playing out again, and we've even been rejected off a significant level here. This could just be a sort of a total collapse from Fantom. And we could just see it drop down 30%. Now we've gone up 30% here, so say we drop down, you know, even if we drop down 30%, we'd still be literally well below where we were. If we drop down 30% from here, I won't even fit on my thing, but 27 is, you know, puts us at like 16, 17 cent, which is definitely a possibility. I also want to compare or show you where we were this time last year, last cycle. So 2019, late 2019, we can see that actually another thing I would like to point out first is the bull market support band. Fantom spends basically mid of 2020 above the bull market support band, and it sort of stays above it with a few corrections here and there, sort of drop down below and then break up above. This is, you know, normal, it's fine, whatever. And then when we sort of end up our bull run, we see the exact reverse play out. So here we spend most of our time above, we drop down below. We see it happen occasionally here where we spend most of our time below, and occasionally it comes above just to go back down below. We are currently still below. We have been below for a while. Let me just check how long we've actually been below. For about half a year, ultimately, we've been below, give or take. We could be due to test this level. I don't think we do. I think we'll have a sort of a move like this where we've dropped down. We put in a sort of a lower high and then drop down even more, and then eventually we'll come to retest it later on. Maybe at a key level down here at 12 cents or something. Maybe we'll break back above and then drop down into the 5 cent sort of range. I'm honestly not sure, but basically we've seen this play out, and it needs to sort of even out. There needs to be a lot of pain so that Fantom can sort of put in a lot of good next bull run. Now is the time when we sort of enable Fantom to do well next bull run. So in a way, you should be hoping for poor price action from Fantom now, so that it's able to perform extremely well next bull run, and also so you can buy cheaper. I mean, buying cheaper is always should always be part of your strategy. You know, that's like, it's one of the best things you can do. But just important to keep note that, you know, it basically spends in a bull run or leading up to a bull run, it spends most of its time above to occasionally wick down below. And then in a bear market, it spends most of its time below to occasionally wick above. We saw here, we had one move up above, a wick below, one move up, wick below, one move up, wick below. Here we've only had one move down, a wick up. And we're currently in our second move down. We could see a third move down, we might not see a third. It all kind of depends on how things play out. But we have about 6 months until the halving. We can see if we go back before, the halving was in May of 2020. We can see that once the halving basically took place, Fantom ultimately started being more bullish and consistently more bullish. It stayed above its bull market support band to occasionally dip down below, go into that cycle that we were talking about. Looking at a year before Fantom, we can see that it basically spends most of it below. But funnily enough, it does this move here, where we have, I want to say 6 months above the bull market support band. Yeah, give or take 5 months above the bull market support band. If we take a look here, where we go above the bull market support band, it's about 4 months, so a similar time frame. And then we go down below the bull market support band, and we have done the same thing here. It's played out this exact same way in terms of where we were, on which side of the bull market support band we were. What we also see here is if we zoom in, we come up here to test the bull market support band and get rejected. What's very interesting as well is right before we had this collapse, which was March, so it was much later on than where we are, we tested this bull market support band and got rejected and crashed. Now, we're about 6 months out from our halving, and this was about 2 months before when we had this big crash, and then Fantom just only went up from there, basically. If we go 6 months back from May, which puts us in about November, we can see that we had sort of moves like this where we came up to test the bull market support band after spending a bit of time at a range well below the bull market. We come back up and we spent a lot of time just below, continuously testing, never really breaking above. And the only time we did was when we had this extra big liquidity grab just to wreck everybody. Like we were saying here, a last fuck you, wrecks the short sellers and then absolutely destroys the long sellers. And because there is no sort of short sellers here or long, there's nothing really going on. It's just a scramble. The price falls and collapses. We are in a very similar time frame to that here. And again, just looking at sort of the not too important short-term price movements, we can see Fantom has sort of set these resistances. You could almost put another resistance here, but I have a feeling we won't spend long in this range. I feel like this is sort of, we've pumped up here, we've been rejected. We'll probably come back down to this line for support and ultimately break down below it. It kind of depends where Fantom goes. If it wants to break above this bull market support band, it might do. We might see another move like this play out where it goes above the bull market, spends a bit of time above, and then wicks back down again. It's very hard to tell, and you can't tell. It's kind of ultimately a leap of faith, especially if you're going to put money on it, or if you want to time the market. It is just a leap of faith, but always take what statistics you can, as much information as you can, make an informed decision, you know, and that's what I want to try and do with these videos. We saw as well, after I touched on this just before, we had this sort of point here, which lines up well with this, and then we went into downward movement, and then during the halving, or even before the halving, we started putting in consistent higher highs, higher lows. I think this will play out a similar way. I do think, I've been saying it for a while, I think most altcoins and cryptos will bottom out in Q4 or Q1 of next year. I think it will be basically within the few months before the Bitcoin halving, basically. Because after the Bitcoin halving, that's when a lot of things start picking up in the market anyway. And things get more hopeful, and like we see here, you know, higher highs, higher lows, consistently with the occasional pullback, but we never return to these lows. So if you're, you know, if we get this big crash like we're expected to have, well, not expected to have, but if it plays out similarly to the last cycle, we could have a big sell-off at some point. If we do get that, I would be tempted to mark this as your low, is what I'm saying. And it's a bit annoying because we only have information from here, so we don't really, we kind of see this is the last sort of phase of Fantom cycle that it spends below its bull market support band. So here we didn't have this part of the graph from 2018 before, but if we did it, it sort of, you can see it sort of plays out a similar way, like where we are here. This is probably where it was about here. And we can see there was just this one period below the bull market support band, and then it went up into its higher highs. So you can kind of take that as a bullish sign long term, but bearish short term, because it means this price does ultimately have to spend more time going down. Again, I'm pretty sure I checked this, but I've forgotten. Spent about a year going down from when we dipped down below this band to above it again. If we take a look at how long we've spent, we've only spent about half a year. And if we drag it out to a year, again, that brings us basically to the halving, where we wick above, finally above when the halving takes place. So it sort of lines up in a similar way. So if you're going to get anything from this, or if I was going to give my opinion, I would say that personally, this is a liquidity grab. It's something to make people bullish. It's something to make people think, okay, the lows are in. Let's buy as much FTM as we possibly can. This then forces the price up. And then we see a collapse when, you know, short sellers get wrecked. All this stuff. Long sellers get wrecked then once the collapse happens. We dip down into one of these levels. I do personally think it will be this orange range. I don't think we'll drop down into this red range. I don't think the drop will be that bad. You can see, if we take a look how far it went down from the peak to the low here, it dropped 88%. If we take this as our peak, which is probably a bit inaccurate, I can see it did actually drop down 88%, which would line us up with this red zone. So it is possibility, like I said, I don't personally think it will happen. I would actually be more sort of optimistic for Fantom, but I did say if we do come down into this range, it will just be a wick, like we saw here. And if we check actually from peak to sort of where we actually sort of ended up after a few days, about a 78% move down. If we take this and go 78% move down, it brings us to our yellow zone. So that is where I would be looking to buy, at this sort of 5 cents below 6 cent level, that sort of price range. I would be buying up Fantom, you know, and I think now is also the time where you can start looking at your USD and maybe start putting it to use. A quick look at Fantom on its Bitcoin pair. Again, a very similar sort of outlook. I've drawn this line here that sort of shows when we're in a bear run, below this line above, you know, when we're in a bull run. I think we will spend much less time below this line. It probably needs readjusting. I drew it a while ago. It's not too accurate. If we go back to late 2019, October here, we can see again on its Bitcoin pair, it did drop for the next few months. So you might be better off putting your money in Bitcoin if you want to be exposed to crypto. You might want to move into Bitcoin now, so that if you, instead of holding Fantom all the way down for this, you might want to hold Bitcoin so that you are exposed to any upside potential risks, just in case you're not 100% sure this would play out, which is a fair assumption. You should always be speculative and, you know, doubting of what anyone says. So if you want to move into Bitcoin so that if there is a pump, you catch that, it might be the safer play. Again, it's sort of at the halving time when Fantom started doing well again on its Bitcoin pair. We can see there were a few pullbacks that were more serious on its Bitcoin pair, and that's just because Bitcoin often does very well during the, you know, bull run at the start. It often leads the crypto space in the bull run, but Fantom ultimately takes over by, you know, 2021, and that's where we see our huge rallies. So it could be worth, maybe if you're a trader, you could look at this on its Bitcoin pair. You might want to move into Bitcoin now, weather this storm for the next few months, move into Fantom a month or two before the halving. During the halving, hold Fantom, move back into Fantom, or just before, move back into Fantom. Once price goes up a decent bit, maybe move back into Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up, and then, you know, hopefully Fantom does as well, but Fantom goes down on its Bitcoin pair, move back into BTC at this top, you know, like I just said, Bitcoin goes up, hopefully Fantom goes up, move into Fantom down here, and then, you know, keep your alt. But if you just want to be a normal Joe, you just want to buy the crypto, hold it and sell it, again, my sort of, not recommendation, not financial advice, my time zone that I would be looking at would be a month or two before the halving, is when a lot of lows will be put in. Again, like, a lot of these prices are good. You're still looking at serious returns if you're buying at these prices and hoping for it to return to anywhere near what it was. If you're buying Fantom now at 23 cent, you can still make a 10x if Fantom returns to $2.3. You know, like, simple math, but it's possible, and it's not completely unfeasible or unrealistic. I think I've gone on for too long, guys. It's probably going to be a very long video, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I've said everything that I kind of want to say. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe, leave a like, comment down below. Are you holding Fantom? Are you going to try time it? Are you just DCing into the market? Tell me what's going on with you and what you think. Thanks very much, guys. Take care and peace.